Hi crafters, it's Kathy from Scrap and Bean coming to you today with this new stencil we brought in called Baubles. We have quite a few of these in stock right now. It's not that easy to get, so I would suggest if you want one, grab it now because we may not get another shipment in time for Christmas if these happen to sell out, and they're just gorgeous. I also happen to use in this one a stamp from Stampscapes, the cabin, lakeside cabin, which adds a nice little element to it. But today I thought what I would do for our Try It Tuesday is do this in purple. So I've been trying out different colors and really like them. So I have the stencil's actually metal, and I have just put a piece of tape, you could use some washi tape, onto my white cardstock. That way I have a hinge so that I allow myself to lift it up and peek if I want to, because sometimes it's fun to see where you're at with your inking. And I do want to make sure I've got this no dust or anything on there that's going to stop my ink. I'm using today these applicators, media brushes. They come in a variety of sizes in cases like this. I really like the large. These are a brush. They're not foam. They're actually little bristles, but very, very soft. And they give you such a smooth blend. I just love them. They do come in small sizes, like this one here, so you get into detailed areas. I have been finding, I've just started using the detailed one, and I'm finding I don't get quite as smooth a blend with that as I do with the larger one. So it might take some more practice, or maybe it's just different. So I like to have a little piece of scrap paper here next to my project, because what I'm finding is between colors, I just rub off the last color onto my scrap paper. The other thing I'm finding is when I load up my ink onto the media brush, I just like to do one little tap to get just the bulk of, I don't know what you call it. It's not getting the bulk of the ink off. It's just so that I get a smoother blend, I'm finding. So, and I'm just going to start, I'm finding that if I go light and build up, I get an effect that I like. I like the effect a lot more. And I was finding that I would kind of stop paying attention to blending lightly, and I am naturally quite heavy-handed. So I'm finding that if I hold like this, I press too hard. If I hold farther back on the handle, then it's got a lot of flex to it, and I'm getting a nicer blend. So if you're a heavy-handed kind of inker, you may want to try that. Just back your hand up on the handle a little bit. Because I am finding I like the blend much better if I just go slow and allow it to build, allow the ink to build up. So I'm just deciding roughly, tap some of that off of there. So you can see where I'm going really lightly. Circular motions I'm finding are the best. And I just happen to start with, these are the 3 inks that I'm using. I just happen to start with the darkest purple that I'm using. And I'm not paying attention to like proper shading like an artist would. I'm not thinking about where the light source is, anything like that. I'm just wanting to have a little bit of a variation of the shades of purple in this case. So in the other card fronts I've been making with this same stencil, I've been using either 2 or 3 inks. So here's one. This is kind of, you know, in browns. I used a walnut stain, frayed burlap, and then a little bit of antique linen. This one with the reds, personally I think it would look better if I'd used a darker red. In fact, I could maybe add one on there. This I just used 2. I used Fired Brick and Abandoned Coral. So I think more of a red would look good there. This one I didn't write it down, but On all of them, I used the Distress Oxide inks. The oxides I find are so creamy and they blend nice. So I used a few on there, and then this one I used the Stampscapes stamp. Oh, that one you've already seen the colors. So there's a little bit of variety. It doesn't always have to be traditional Christmas colors that we're using. So this one, I just took that artistic freedom to decide that it's going to be purple. And with these ornaments, these baubles, I'm just loving this stencil. You could think of it for stamping a design on the inside or even a greeting. You could put your Merry Christmas or whatever sentiment that you're using. Just stamp it right in the center there. You could also use paste or markers through your stencil to give it a different look. I should have tapped that off a bit. And even when you're blending two colors, I just love how they blend together. It's working really nicely because the inks are so creamy. These are the oxides, which makes them extra creamy. Or if you have other brands of inks, pigment inks, anything that's got pigment written on it is going to be nice and creamy and blend together nicely. And you can see I'm even overlapping the colors quite a bit. I just like that look where they're blended together nicely. And I see where I've got a little bit of a dark spot here, so I'm just going to blend that out some more. But I'm feeling like the trick to this nice blend is these where they're brushes. They're actually little soft little bristles. So much different than the foam. The foam ink applicators. And do these little ribbons. And you could go in, especially if you're using a small applicator like that, it'd be pretty easy to go in and do like the ribbons one color, do the little pine branches there another color, so you can really switch this up and get quite a variety. And when I'm thinking of different images that you could stamp in the center of that bauble, it's nice and large. So I think snowman would look nice in there. A little, if you've got a little Christmas house, oh, a little gingerbread, kind of any Christmas design would look good in there. And words are awesome. You could even do a stencil of other words inside of this stencil, just to get creative. You could kind of think of this as a snow globe. So any image that you would put in a snow globe, you could certainly put in to this one. Now, I'm just about filled the whole space up, and I actually want to add one more color. So just kind of see how like a little bit of ink comes off there, but it's pretty much done. So I'll just switch over to my next color. And just add a little bit of this lilac. What's this? Shaded lilac it's actually called. But you can just get really creative with your colors and experiment. And you can certainly try out different inks that you have. You can even combine different brands. I just happen to have all this as the Distress Oxides, but you could add different brands together as well. One thing that I'll give you a little tip when you're using, this is a metal stencil. So oftentimes when I'm using paper stencils, what I'll do is when I go to lift it up off the page or off my project, I take the stencil and peel it up off my paper. with a metal, you do want to make sure they stay 100% flat and they never get curved. So instead of lifting the stencil off the paper, I lift my paper off my stencil. Especially if you're using paste or something where you feel like you need to pull it up. If there's any kind of separating or bending, you want to make sure it's your paper that bends, not your stencil that bends. You want your stencil to stay nice and flat. So here's our image. I just love it. It's that easy. And then you can just embellish it. This would look nice to have a solid colored cardstock that matched, or a foil cardstock behind it. Add your sentiment, and you could possibly be done. So I hope you gals will give that a try. The trick is really these nice bristles sound hard, but it's nice soft little hairs on these media applicators, and a beautiful stencil. Have fun with your Christmas projects.